Welcome to Lesson 6 of Unit 3, Make It Go. In this lesson, students will work to answer the question, how are we being engineers when we make a galley moto? Students will use what they have learned about pushes and pulls to design, create, test, and redesign their galley motos. Students analyze data from their galley moto toy to figure out that the design of their toy can allow for someone playing with it to change speed or direction with a push or a pull. In the Engage, start by returning to the design challenge of making galley motos that move using pushes or pulls. Use the galley moto book to remind them that a galley moto is a toy car, bike, or truck made out of recycled materials. Explain that they are going to build their own galley moto toys. Then direct their attention to the engineering design cycle on student page 4 and talk about the ways students have been engineers so far. Identify steps that they have already completed. Step 1, identifying that we want to build a galley moto that can move with a push or a pull. And Step 2, researching information about what we need to know in order to build galley motos. Listing materials and exploring how things move. Review the remaining steps of the cycle with students. Add to the research by showing students these galley moto videos again and asking the following questions. Were the galley motos in the videos made exactly the same ways? How were they alike? How were they different? Ask if there were any items they would like to add to the galley moto materials or need to know charts. Have students turn and talk for these questions, then share a few answers to the whole group. In the Explore, encourage students to brainstorm some ideas for their own galley motos. Show them what materials are available for their engineering project. Explain that these items are to be shared amongst all engineers. Guide students to understand that their galley moto will need wheels to move. Then ask them what other materials they might want to use and why. Demonstrate how to thread the wire through the wheels using wire and wheels diagram shown here on teacher page 18. Introduce the galley moto design rubric, student page 14, to students as the tool that they will use to evaluate their designs. Review the criteria of the galley moto. It must start and stop moving. It must show movement with pushes and pulls, and change speed and direction. After reviewing the rubric, direct students to this student journal page 13, Galley Moto Brainstorm Sheet, to illustrate their designs. There is also writing space provided for design descriptions. Be sure that students are completing Step 2, Research and Brainstorm, and Step 3, Choose the Best Ideas from the Engineering Design Cycle. Once students have their galley moto brainstorm illustrations complete, move on to Step 4 of the Engineering Design Cycle, Construct Prototype. Explain that a prototype is the first design of something. They are going to make the first design of their galley moto toys. Circulate and assist in prototype creation. Note that this may take students a few days to complete. In the Explain, return to the Engineering Design Cycle and point out Step 5, Test and Evaluate. Now that they have constructed their prototypes as engineers, they must test their designs to make sure that they move the way students want them to. Take student ideas about how to test designs and allow time for initial student tests. Have students demonstrate a push, a pull, changing speed, and changing direction with their galley motos. Students should use qualitative measurement words to describe the movements. Then have students come up with a challenge that they want to use to test their galley motos. This challenge might include traveling a certain distance, being able to change directions, or knocking over a set of blocks. Allow students to test this challenge with their galley moto prototypes. Students may choose to add ramps or other structures to help meet the challenge. For Step 6 of the Engineering Design Cycle, Communicate. Have each student show and discuss his or her galley moto and explain their test results with a small group or out loud to the whole class. Prompt students to use vocabulary they learned throughout the unit, including force, push, pull, prototype, speed, and direction. In the Elaborate, start by asking if there is anything they want to change to make their Galimoto better. Point out that this is step 7 of the engineering design cycle, redesign. Explain to students that engineers make changes to their prototypes so that they work better and perform better in whatever they are made to do. Allow students to experience redesigning their Galimotos. They could gather feedback from their peers or from the teacher to assist them in this part of the cycle. They can draw their new design here on student page 15, then explain how and why they changed their design. Students can then build a new prototype and retest their designs. Then they should communicate the changes and results to the group if time allows. In the Evaluate, have students review how they completed the engineering design cycle while making their Galimoto. Draw their attention back to the Galimoto design rubric on student page 14 to self-evaluate. Ask students how they were able to use their own science knowledge to create a toy like in the Galimoto video or book. By the end of this lesson, students will use the engineering design cycle to design, test, and redesign a Galimoto toy.